Hello, I'm MK Davis. In this video, I'm going to just kind of go over some of the files, or perhaps all of the files that I was showing at the Summerfest in Oakridge, Oregon. Let's review these files. I didn't get to give a complete presentation because of time constraints, so I'll make them all available here. Before that, I'll just show some little scene photos of myself with some of my work. This is a giant patty head, I call it. Pretty darn good resolution for that size. An excellent image to work with. And I sent this image. I was the one who sent it to Todd Gatewood. I didn't pick him out and seek him out. He sought me out. And I sent that to him, and the rest is, you know. Now, here we go. Now, I'm going to go over here. This presentation came in two halves. The first half is the Patterson film, different versions and different qualities down through the years. And my quest was to find the images from the original master, or very close to it, because it makes a huge difference in the quality. That giant patty head that I just showed you is a good example of that. All right, let's go. We'll start right here. This right here is from about a third generation copy that was pushed till it was as good as a second gen copy. And then I put it through a process that took the flicker out of it, because it was shot at slow speeds, around 16 frames per second, thereabouts. So by eliminating the flicker, you start to see some more things. You see that the little shock wave up and down that leg when she stomps that foot. All right, next. This is a complete walk. Goes the distance till Patterson, or the cameraman, the camera person. I think you have to do that, because we don't have anything but somebody's word for who did it, who held the camera. Probably was Patterson, but just because we don't have that fact, we'll just call it the camera person. You see, at that point, the camera was taken down. Another thing I'd like to say about it is, people used to object to any enhancement of the film because they'd say, well, the creature is only 1.2 millimeters tall. If you look at this, you'll see how tall it is right here and how tall it ends up. Watch when it goes on down, it gets smaller and smaller and smaller, smaller and smaller, until it's in the far away part of it, it's just a tiny, tiny little thing. But it starts out taking up a good bit of the frame. So I asked the people, at what point was it 1.2 millimeter? And they looked like puzzled. Well, at 1.2 millimeter. Oh, yeah. At what point? Down at the other end of the film, or? Now, here's something that's definitely a winner for the Patterson film itself, being authentic. And I used to get this all the time. Where is the glutes? Where are the buttocks? It looks like she's got a pillow in her rear end, like a suit with a pillow in it. This is early in the filming, and the camera person is down below the level of the Sasquatch, aiming kind of up at an angle, and got a good view right up the middle. And you see that that is a separated glutes. More than one frame of it, too. And the question, the fact that the question was ever asked means that people didn't give this film its due. They didn't study it. They didn't look at it. They just looked at the money shot, you know, where she's big and in the open and looking back, and the angle of the sun and her angle was such that it didn't penetrate the hair, the light coating of hair on the rear end, but at this angle it did. And if you look carefully, a lot of that hair is worn off the inside edges. And that tells you that wherever she hung out at, it had low overhead, and she did a lot of butt scooting. That could be an overhang, a cave, or anything like that. Remember this when someone says to you, well, it looks like she's got a suit on, there's a pillow in the suit, and you have this as a rebuttal. The film takes care of itself most of the time. Here's another one even further along the film. That's a naked person. Not much doubt about that. Now here's some back muscles and the glutes showing. You can see this muscle right in here moving as she oscillates back and forth. And then right here you can see the glutes working against each other. Separately. Moving separately. Great stuff. All right. This right here came from an Argosy magazine article about the film. And even in the dot matrix format, is much better than anything you normally see. They had the original film, had it made into negatives, and then they made these prints from the negatives to go in the magazine article. That's called an internegative. Look how well this hair shows up. Now, Argosy magazine went out of business. Nobody knows what happened to those internegatives. Somebody's got them. And this one right here, I run the filtered version of that 3rd gen. And then when it comes time for that particular frame, I insert the Argosy, and you see the quality goes way up. See that right there? You can see that hair swing. It's being blown by the wind, and it swings, and then it's kind of stuck over the ear and down on the cheek, and that's what you see right there. This is kind of a, oh my gosh, it's so crystal clear. But you rarely get a chance to see anything of the original. Most of the time it's further down the line. All right. This right here is very interesting. It's a rather a recent discovery. This right here is a large object that she's carrying with a rope or a lanyard, and she just rests her hand on it and prevents it from swinging. And the Russians recognized that she wasn't using her left hand or her left arm way back many years ago, back in the 70s. But this is the reason why. She's carrying something of significant weight. I've speculated on what I thought it might be, but I really don't know. Whatever she's carrying, she does not want it to be filmed by the cameramen, camera persons, excuse me. She wants it to stay on her left side, hidden away, and it swings back into view, and they get a little bit of it. And she steadies it. Let's just get a little bigger. Look at it right there. See it right there? Right there. What do you think it is? If you look carefully in the high quality frames, this came from a Chrome print that was made from the original film that was in the camera the day that Patterson got the film, or the camera person. I've called it Patterson so long it's hard not to, but it don't hurt anything. But I'm trying to be a neutral party. This right here is that rope coming over the neck. Right here. I see the arrow pointing to it. A lanyard, I call it. And here you see it again. This is that red image, that filtered image that I showed you before, the giant head that I was standing by. If you look right there, that rope comes under the neck and over the back of the neck. You can see a little bulge. What a wonderfully clear image. This image right here is a result of an argument. When I first got interested in the film, I wanted to know why this existed, because if the film was as bad as what they show, and you can't get a good frame like this from a really bad version of the film, you can't do that. So here it is, a really good frame. It came about as a result of an argument where one person says, I see a baby on her back. And this person chimed in and says, well, there can't be a baby on her back because I've been working with the film the original that was in the camera. And there is no baby on the back. But as a result, he leaks this out to the internet to show people that there's no baby on there. And this is significant. Now, let's move on over to this. When in 1968, John Green and Jim McLaren returned to the film site, and Jim walked the walk that Patty walked, and John filmed him as if he were Roger Patterson. And so later on, Bill Munns stitched together several frames and created a panorama of the film site. Well done, excellent work. But I took advantage of it and superimposed Patty over that and carefully matched the size and distances. That's Jim McLaren there. He's around 6'5". Just do the comparison. I got some better ones. Let's look at some of the others. Oh, great one. You see multiple images of McLaren as these were different frames stitched together. You see, I outlined Patty so you could see McLaren behind her and see the differences in the girth and the height. He's 6'5", so she's only a little more than that. I would venture to say the most I would go would be 7 foot, and that would be generous. That's accounting for broken ground and the fact that her knees are not locked. If she stepped on your toe or Jim McLaren's toe, it would crush it. The North American Science Institute was formed to study the film. It was sponsored by Peter Byrne, who paid this gentleman named Jeff Glickman $75,000, I believe it was, and Jeff Glickman came up with a weight for Patty. And of course, you don't have scales to put her on, but you can judge by the biomechanics. And he came up with a weight of 1,400 pounds. People scoffed at it. Bigfooters did. But now it's easier to understand that she's going to be somewhere in that area. He's nowhere near that, even though he's a tall person. This is one of my favorites here. It's got the panorama. You'll see all the trees line up. That's pretty. What that tells you is that John Green was using an identical camera with an identical lens. Another lens, it would not line up. if they had two different lenses. So, if you really want to know what lens was on the camera, then find out what lens was on John Green's camera. All right. Okay, let's move on. Now here's a frame. It's a third gen frame from a third gen copy that still shows the ear it's right here in this raw image. You can see it, as well as what I consider to be a braid. And we'll move over to here. There's the ear, and this is the braid. I'm going to go and find another file that I've got that should contribute mightily to this particular interest here. Let me go and do that. Let's see here. There it is. Braid walk complete with Argosy image. Let's take a look at that. Once again, this is the third gen copy and it's filtered. See the braid on the end of that hair that's swinging? See that little braid? Let's move it up a little in size. This is the Argosy image. You still see the hair is stuck above the ear. That's that string of hair with the braid on it. The braid's laying over the cheek. It takes a little while to run this, but let's let it run. There we go. Watch it carefully. See the braid right there? The ear. Even the mouth opens up. You can see that it's a herringbone pattern. Okay. Starts over. See it swinging? And there's the braid right there. Swings out over the ear. It's got about a 8 to 9 mile an hour wind at her back. And it just took that braid and blew it out over the ear. That's it right here. Hanging out over the, stuck over the ear. The wind's keeping it up there for a frame or two, and then it comes back down. There it is. All right. That says enough about him. That tells you that she's capable of manipulating her hair, or another one perhaps did it. I don't know, but capable of producing a braid. And let's move on. A large walk with quality inserts. You know, I've come to appreciate that when you watch a cinema, frames that are produced rapidly in sequential order, then you see it as a live event, and you can go down to around 16 frames per second and still looks live. Anything below that is flicker, a lot of heavy flicker to it. Keystone Cops, remember those? How flickery they were? They were shot at about 9 frames per second. But these have higher quality images closer to the original. Inserted, that's one. And what it does is brings the average quality up. When you look at it, you see an average of all the frames. So it boosts the average up. It makes the whole thing seem to gain quality. All right. This is one I did probably 20 years ago, or getting close to it. Let's just go as big as we can. That's nice. You watch her size shrink as she walks away at an angle. Starts out, can't even fit her in here completely. Now watch her shrink and shrink and shrink as she moves away. At what point is the image 1.2 millimeters? Let me tell you, it's been a long, hard battle to analyze this film. Now, no one has stood as stalwartly as Bigfooters against it. I can't figure that out. Not everybody, but some of the louder ones and some of the more well-known ones. I say, just watch it. If it can't be done, I wouldn't be able to do it. Magnificent. Here's some back detail. This all came off the film in the last stages of the film when she's walking away, and She might have been 1.2 millimeter at that distance, but still, there's detail. Look at the back when you boost the contrast. You can see that same line as this right here. This is a hairy gentleman. I guess it's a gentleman. It don't turn around, so it may be a woman holding her hair up there. I don't know, but likely probably a man. But just take a look, compare this hairy person to all of these images, and you'll see what you're looking at. You'll recognize what you're looking at. Not completely like a layer of fur, just light haired over. The only place that has hair that's thicker than that is up here on the head. Now this right here is the final walk away, final sequence. I call it a walk sequence, and I stabilized it. So enjoy. Let's look again. Now, once again, this begins after a break in the filming. He either lost the subject or either cut the camera off and cut it back on. I understand, or it was said that they ran out of film. Had 100 feet of film on a roll. It probably did not run out, or could not have run out, if they started it for initially at the beginning of the creature's appearance. But if they had been filming some earlier, well, that's different. One more time with this one. Okay, move on. Let me show you something right here. And I pick up things over the years. This right here is from a book called On the Track of the Sasquatch by John Green. Published in 1968. And notice what he says about it. He said this is one frame from Roger Patterson's movie as released to the newspapers. He puts a disclaimer there. It is the best single frame of all, showing the creature facing the camera with its upper body swung to face the photographer and its arms fully spread, but it has little of the impact of the movie. If you're watching the original that was in the camera, this has very little of the impact of that. And look, it's nothing but a silhouette. Just a grainy, dark, featureless silhouette. And he says this is the best. It is the best single frame. Now let's go to a conversation that John Green had in a chat room. Someone asked him, this is by Monster Hunter, do you have or have access to the original Patterson film? And this was his reply. No, but Renee and I had it for some time in 1968. So he's over there publishing this bad image at the same time being in possession of the original film. And when you want to talk original, let's look at it. That came off the original film. This is what he had to work with. And he did not publish this. He published that silhouette. What a fantastic image. Now, I got this from Miss Patterson. Miss Patterson came in there and she says she had a shoebox that she had got from the top of the closet. She says, I want to show you boys some letters and stuff that Roger had. And I said, okay. And she goes to pick an envelope out of there, and it hangs on something. And when she pulls it on out, these 4x5 transparencies come flying out of there and land on the floor. This was one of them. She says, those are Roger's negatives. I said, no, ma'am, these are not negatives. These are positive prints, transmission images made to be projected. Got sprocket holes. And I held it up to the light, and my jaw just dropped. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Everything that I had speculated about this film being of much better quality than anyone ever imagined, it all came down on me right then. I was looking at it. And she went with me, and Don Monroe went with us to Photo House, and she ran errands while we were having these things professionally scanned. And I felt like a really special feeling that she was that trustworthy. I went back. I gave Don some money to pay for it, and I went back with the technician and stood with him and made sure he did not make himself a copy. And then we had these things put on gold-plated CDs, archival CDs that were guaranteed 300 years. What a picture. And John Green could have put that in that book and changed a lot of people's minds, but he didn't do it. Instead, he goes and puts this one. It is the best. I'm afraid I'll have to disagree with that. Now, you go on over to... this is a postcard that Miss Patterson had. That Roger had postcards made. It was made from that transparency. Because I see down here a blue ink pen mark. See it? Somebody had touched an ink pen to it. And if you go, if you go back to this one, you'll see the same mark. So that postcard was made from this. Now what caught my attention was that Patterson made this statement about it. October the 20th, Bluff Creek, Northern California, Roger Patterson obtains his first films of Bigfoot. This scene depicts an actual frame from his film. Now, that in itself is a disclaimer. It's saying that postcard depicts an actual frame. It's not. There's some differences. And I'll tell you what the difference is that I found to be the difference. And this is the only frame that shows a black patty. The only one. The rest show auburn, and some even show red. And we'll get to that. Now, that may have bothered Patterson for someone to make it more gorilla-like by making the hair and the skin the same tone when they weren't the same tone. In other versions of the film, you see that they're not. I'll show you. But let me make my way down to it. First of all, let's look at Patty's leg muscle. This is from a zebra chrome print made from the original film. The quality is obvious. Look, this hair is so thin right here from being swiped by this thumb on this hand. It swings right through there. Now, it's not naked, but due to the fact that the tone of the skin and the hair is different, you can reduce the dominance of the hair and see the skin much more plainly. And when you do that, you see the muscle. Look at that muscle. Anybody that sees this, that knows muscles, should be able to identify what they're looking at. I'm not skilled in that, so but I did get the things to where you could see them plainly. You swipe that thing with them big old hands and that big old thumb. Now, about red, that one more file, we'll get to the red patty. This is where I inserted high quality color inserts. A lot of people have taken these walk across videos that I've made, and they came and they went back and deconstructed them and took Patty out and just made it look like this was just a scene and Bigfoot walked left to right. And then they put their stamp on it like they had produced it. But they didn't. They just modified the one that I had out. I could have done it, but I prefer to leave her in there for comparison purposes and things like that. Now they're standing over each other, and then they go on. All these high quality inserts were produced from the original film that was running in the camera by a man named Bruce Bonney. And Bruce Bonney had the argument about the baby on the back. And he said that he could easily see objects that were as small as a grape or a marble with basic identification. And that's without enhancement. That's how good the original was. Let's go to Red Patty. This version of the film was broadcast, and it does not have hardly any flaws in it, or scratches, or piece flakes. You see, I kept it because you could see the mouth move. Now, WGH. Seen any red-haired giants lately? That's what the original film had on it. It had a auburn to red patty. And that's why Patterson called that a depiction, because I guess someone forced him or made him blacken it so that it would look more homogeneous like a gorilla. Now, believe it or not, I got this clip from a television show by the name of World Greatest Hoaxes. And they chose a version of the Patterson film that was so good that when you look at it, you know it's not a hoax. To me, that's crazy. They should have shown John Green's. You know, that black one, the silhouette. Look at this thing. And here's one from the World Wildlife Federation who showed a film similar. And I took it and I ran it through my processor and was able to take the flicker out and run it in slow motion. There again, she's reddish. And here's one that's not stabilized. Well, it may be stabilized. This was many years ago. This one was broadcasted. I cropped and stabilized it. I have to remind myself. Okay. Now, let's make sure. Yeah, it looks like that covers it. If I think of anything else, I'll come back to it. But right now, I'm going to move on over to another subject matter called woo. You ever heard of woo? Woo is the high strangeness that's often described in the presence of a Sasquatch sighting. When I say high strangeness, it's unexplained, and people don't understand what they're looking at. And so they began to put it into a category that's for the unexplained, and they just simply called it woo, and it's become kind of a hot topic. So I'm going to go and I'm going to talk about their flashes. People say, I saw a Bigfoot and he disappeared in a flash of light. And that's been described numerous times. And then you go and look at some of these iconic films of Bigfoot, and you ask yourself, is anything on those films that approach that kind of what you might call a flash of light? Well, let's look at it. First of all, let's begin with the Paul Freeman film. Let's see. Let's look at the film itself first, just a little bit. This is a stabilized version of it. Let's move it on up. We'll just advance this thing. For those who are interested in this particular part, let's watch it again. I had the cast from those. Oh man, I value these things. I'll have to take a picture and put it on here. But I have both footprints that he casted. And I value those tremendously. To me, they mean a lot because they tell me something. They tell me that the splayed toes are not a function of weight. This is only a 9-inch long print. Now let's move on here. Let's watch it here. Watch that thing carefully. Okay. Now, what I was trying to do was, first of all, I was trying to stabilize it by hand, which is even better. And then I wanted to see if there was anything back in those dark shadows back behind the film subject that might be a Bigfoot, another one, an additional one. So I spent the time and the effort. It took me a long time, several weeks. But I did that. I filtered them all, got the albedo, the surface brightness up. And when I played it, I was very shocked and surprised. Oh, my goodness. Let's watch it. There it is. And it turns around and the whole face is lit up. Then boom, the flash. And then you watch the camera bring it down, bring the iris back, readjust. The camera reacted to the flash. Watch it again. All right. Now what I want you to look at is the face of the creature itself. All right, let's just stop this. And wait a minute, that's not it. Okay, this is a still. This is the creature right here. Right here. The entire face, just prior to that flash, lights up. As a matter of fact, you think, well, that's the sun. But this is on the dark side. See right there? The entire face. So what's going on there? When this thing turns around and that face is lit, then all of a sudden everything is lit. So you go back, watch it again. When it turns around, watch its face. It's not just sunlight. See it, the whole thing light up? I guess the moral of the story is don't push a Bigfoot too hard. We don't know what's going on there. Now I'm going to have to stop. I'll make a part 2. I'll begin with the Freeman. There's some other things, the Freeman film. There's appears to be a small one in that film, and I'll show you what I'm talking about, and then we'll finish up. But for right now, over and out.